Greetings, greetings, greetings. You're now tuned into the number 13, signs.astrology.com. I'll be your host, your master of ceremony. My name is Ram Hotep El. I'm going to get right into this particular episode. Got a few things on my mind. I want to go ahead and hit these points while they're fresh on my mind. I got you guys know I do these videos. I don't, this is not the news. Nobody wrote me out a script and handed it to me and said, here, talk about this today. This, comes straight from the universe. It's channeled. This is a true channel because it's channeled straight from the universe. So, what's going on with this whole missing airline? That's what we're going to talk about today. Uh, we got the missing flight, the most infamous one, of the most infamous news story out there right now. The missing flight 370. They're saying this flight got 86. This missing. It's gone. They don't know where it is. And they're saying that this happened on the 8th of March. And with all of this satellites and all of this equipment that they have to monitor the whole world, and I mean, they can, they got satellite cameras where they can basically beam into your house. Even if they don't even have a camera in your house, they could beam into your house and watch you as you masturbate while you watching the news. No, I'm just joking. But seriously, though, they got camera equipment that can spy on you in your house, even if you don't have no cameras in there. But then they're trying to say they don't know where this flight is at and they just don't know how this happened. So what is this all about? What's my version of it? People have been asking me to do a video on it. I was reluctant at first because I'm like, oh, this is just, one of those little news story things. I'm not going to just be jumping on every hot bandwagon and doing a video because, like, if you guys notice, like, my videos, I usually, like, for the most part, come up with my own topics, because there's a lot of news out there that's not being reported. You see, when planets going retrograde and things like that are happening, that's news. You see, this is fourth dimensional news, and they know that. This is why I have people in the media that follow me around. We roll together. They the paparazzi, I'm the paparazzi. I'm just the Moorish paparazzi. Some of them are Moors that's rolling around. They got their cameras, but everything is news. So, I mean, I respect that. That's the power of the media. That's our constitutional right to record. And to record as an art. So I'm not against that. But the thing is that story is one of those stories that needs to be explained because it's not what you think it is. And this is why, why it's not what you think it is? This is why it's so much confusion related to the story. Just think about it. You watch CNN, they say one thing. You watch Fox, they say another. Then they go cross-reference each other and sync their stories together. So it's like everybody's saying something different about this flight. Now, before I even get into this, I'm just going to point out something to you guys. And I've been wanting to point this out, but I never had the opportunity, but now's a good time. Now, you notice that, I think this was at the beginning of 2013. I know for sure Warren Buffett and a couple other really mega rich people and moguls went and bought news outlets. And Warren Buffett definitely was one of them. I mean, I can't remember the outlet that he bought, but I think it was the Washington Post. I'm not sure, but he bought like one of the major news outlets, and and a lot of millionaires was like buying into the media. And when they were doing this, the news has always been popular. It's always been a lot of money in it. But when they were doing this was right before this news is getting ready. The media is getting ready to go to the next level. The media is getting ready to go to the final frontier, if you want to say that. And when they were doing this was at a time when, before really crisis actors got real popular. Now they've always had crisis actors. I haven't done my video on crisis actors yet, and I eventually will, because that's a topic in and of itself. But this was before like crisis actors got real popular. Now they've always had them, but nowadays mostly like a lot of, I say 90% of your news stories are smoke screens. And if it's not crisis actors, and if it is based on a true event, they're twisting it to favor their side, or their interests, or that billionaire's interest, or whatever that billionaire's interest is that created that media outlet. Now there are a lot of media news outlets out there that are unbiased, that they'll say one thing, they'll tell you the left side of the story and the right side of the story. So I respect that type of news. Like when you sifting through media, you got to know that it's all an illusion. See, where I'm getting at is that the media is really becoming the new Hollywood. You notice the Hollywood is kind of like struggling right now. Hollywood is trying to climb up out of that contract that Hollywood is in. And you notice that right now, the media is like making a lot of money. And I predicted this, and people, I mean, I know people, you didn't know me at this time, people, but I got witnesses. I got my mother, and I got Sister Shamira is one of my witnesses. You know, if she's watching this video, you know who you are. But I predicted this back in like 2011 maybe, or 2010, and I was like, this is before, I know for sure it was before Warren Buffett bought up that major news outlet, and I was like, the media is getting ready to become like the new Hollywood. Like the media is going to be the big thing in the new energy. Why? Because as this world ends and begins all at the same time, everybody wants to document it and record it. Because at this time, see, what we're doing with this internet revolution, with these phones and these cameras and all this media, and even though it's a lot, we're creating a whole new format on hieroglyphics and passing on information to generations, and we're changing the game. Because at first it was all about books. First it was all about passing things on from mouth to ear. Then we began to write and leave things on pyramid walls and codes. You know, then from there we got into technology eventually, and we began to send messages to each other and write things down on letters and scribe things. And that had a lot to do with the scriptures. The different scriptures is really why we started writing. We started writing because of the Bible, the Injil, the Gospel, the Quran, the Zuber, these different books, the epics of Gilgamesh. So we started recording history in these books, and then now we're getting into the device. Eventually it led us to technology, recording, and now it's going into straight up clouds and the internet, and it's going to keep going. It's going to get further than that. So now we're on these devices, so everybody's fishing and looking for reality TV is the thing, is the new thing. And 13 Sons of Astrology ain't sleeping, because we on the cutting edge of it. We're working on some things right now as we speak on reality. I mean, this is reality TV to a certain extent, but we're even working on taking you a step further with this thing in the future. But right now, this is definitely reality TV. So I knew this was going to happen. And basically, to make a long story short, they ended up buying up the media outlet. So now here we are, where we come up with these news stories that are just amazing. And it's like crisis stories going on like more than ever, like every other day. It seems like it's another crisis story going on. So what's up with this flight? And this is just my opinion on it. Now, I could be wrong, but I get my information from the universe, first and foremost, the ancestors, then carrying on down to doing my own research, from independent media outlets, in addition to going into mainstream media. So I kind of bring a lot to the table when it comes to like when I'm saying something, where I get my information from. And usually I'm close to being right or not that far off. Usually. And that's only because, I mean, most of this stuff, once you figure out the format and the blueprint on how they do these things and how they work these rituals, it's not really like amazing, you know, to be able to predict world events. It's like, it's not really an amazing thing, because I mean, for the most part, it's just about knowing and following a suit and being able to follow a blueprint or following a pattern, which really is what it really is. Everything is a pattern to play. So when you watch these news stories, and this is, I'm not off topic because I'm going into the flight. When you watch these news stories, watch the stories around those stories. Because the stories around those stories will tell you what's really going on. And a lot of you might still need help. But if you're a true knight, you see, you're a true knight, you're a true king, if you're a true queen, wherever you are, and if you're true to this and been doing your research, you'll be able to pick up on what's really going on with a particular news story by just watching the news stories around it. And then sometimes it can get even deeper because they plan this out to a T. The same way Hollywood plans out their movies and the numbers that you see and everything is specific and everything is detailed and documented. Well, they do this too, and when it comes to the media, so they plan out every detail of the news story. But they're a little bit sloppy now, but they're getting better and better at this thing. So you gotta always do that. Watch the stories around it. So we know the facts about what's going on with this missing flight. So let's just go straight into the meat of this topic. Now, myself, what I got from it is that there's no, and I thought this from the very beginning, but over time it ended up proving itself to me that there's no missing flight. There's no missing flight. And a lot of people are going to be like, what the fuck? Like, I can't believe you, or why, like, why would they? Yeah, right. You guys must have done research 9/11. You see, this is a spring. They was doing this is a spring equinox ritual, and they're getting good with the rituals now with nature and stuff like that because they get to the point with these rituals now where they don't even really got to kill off people no more. I'm gonna tell you this story. Like, I really didn't even want to bring this up, but I'm gonna tell you guys this real quick story. Then I'm gonna go right back into it. Just want to make a quick point. I saw this guy when I was out eating the other day that I know for sure the news media came on. And he was supposed to have been a victim in some crime to where he died. He was like supposed to have been murdered in some small town. And I saw this guy out eating. And I know it was him for sure. This guy was on television. And I saw this guy out eating. He was like eating over at this particular restaurant that I was at. So you can't tell me the stuff that going on in the media ain't real because I done seen this stuff with my own two eyes. Like, I've seen people like this crisis actor stuff on real deal. This guy was out eating and I'm like, he's supposed to be dead. And this was a real story. Like, you think you watching the news and it's supposed to be reality. The news it's not even reality. They've been creating crisis actors and crisis stories on the news. So I don't think there was a missing flight. You see, because if there was, the thing is that they don't really have any real, true eyewitnesses. If you notice, they got a couple paid actors that saying, "Yeah, I seen it go down. I saw the people." But if you notice, there's no real actors out there. I mean, not actors, but there's no real witnesses. That's the first thing you got to look at. So if there are no real witnesses, then what's going on? I mean, like, they're saying they don't have no footage of it. There's no black box. I was watching on the news last night. Now, they could change this after I do this video because, I mean, it's a fake story. So they could tell you they found the flight if they want to. But the thing is that they'll never. I'm going to explain to you how they do these crisis stories because I respect the crisis stories because they still do them on a certain way. They still play them out based off of real events. Because that's the thing, that story is based off of real events. But they're not going to, they even said on the news last night, they don't think they're going to find a black box. So there's no black box. Come on, after 9/11, security's already heightened up. They know what's going on all over the world. They found some man. That's how I know it's a sick joke, because right after the news story came on last night about the flight, they put this thing on about this man they found in the jungle hiding out with like AK-47s and shit in the middle of some rainforest somewhere, and they found him. But then you can't find this missing flight, and you don't know what happened. Come on. That's why I know it's definitely more to it. So there is no missing flight. So then now you got to ask yourself, okay, if there is no missing flight, why? Why are they doing this? Well, for one thing, ratings, because this thing is turning into a soap opera now, and they got viewers. As long as they got viewers, they get money through advertisement and marketing. So they got the viewers. So they got everybody watching. It's like a soap opera, getting online, hitting the sites up, getting clicks and things of that nature to try to see what happens next with this thing. And this is why they bought into it. See, this is why not Rupert Murdoch, but Warren Buffett bought into the media, because you always got to watch Warren. You always got to watch Warren, even though we know he got his money from the banks and all of that. We understand that, but he still got a lot of skill and intellect. And you got to watch him because Warren See, what happened with Warren is that he knew that this was going to happen. He knew they was going to start coming up with these crisis stories, and they take time to play out, like the Jodi Aries, and they really doing it on that level. That stuff is more and more like a soap opera. Here it is, a woman that murdered and pretty much took out her boyfriend, and they making this woman into like a celebrity. Attractive woman too, you know what I'm saying? She attractive. They're making her, the guys like fantasizing over her in court. You could look at them and tell, and it's just turning into more and more of a fantasy. And that's the thing, like that's really the point that I'm pointing out is that now news is getting deep because now it's feeding into like the story is not boring anymore. So now you got young people that's wanting to watch the news and kids that want to find out what happened with the missing flight. And see, they're taking your energy, your inner chi. So that's one level to it. But then it's actually telling you something. So it's okay to watch it if you understand what's going on. That's what I'm going to try to help you to do in these last couple minutes. So let's decode it. Malaysia flight 370, saying that it was 2 U.S. citizens on there that faked their passports. So they don't know where they were from. This is all the facts of the story. Then they're saying, some stories are saying that these 2 Iranians hijacked the plane and they used computers to do it. You got another story that's saying that the CIA hijacked the plane. Or the NSA. Some people are saying the NSA did it, and they used computers and they hacked into the plane and took control of it, guiding it into a location not disclosed on maps. And this is where you get into a lot of people that believe aliens have something to do with it. Now this is where it's going to get interesting. It's about to get interesting now, because now aliens have everything to do with why they turned this into a crisis story. And people hate when Ram Hotep talks about aliens, but the thing is that you notice that full disclosure is coming slowly. And they actually are mentioning aliens as being a possibility on news outlets, on the news. This is letting you know full disclosure is actually happening. By 2015, it'll be in full effect. Probably they'll probably be talking about aliens in a minute, and then by 2020, 2025, they'll probably have aliens on TV reporting the news. Who knows? Because this is where this thing is coming and going, I should say. So aliens have everything to do with why they came up with this crisis story. And you might say, what's a crisis story? So what do aliens have to do with it? Well, I'll tell you in a second. So the first thing you got to look at is the name Malaysia. It was a Malaysia airliner. Malaysia. See, it's not, when you get into decoding this stuff, it gets deep, because every letter means something, every word means something, every number used means something. The day that it happened on was 9. It happened on a 9 day, which represents completion. So what it's telling you is that, for one thing, it's 370. It's flight 370. So let's start with that. 3 representing fortune and money and Jupiter type of energy. 7 representing spirituality, which is ruled by Neptune. And then the 0, which is a cipher representing origination or a point of origin. So it's missing flight 370, happening on March the 8th, 2014. March the 8th, 2014 adds up to 9, if I'm not mistaken. So you got all of these numbers. You got March the 8th, 2014. That adds up to a 9. What kind of story is being talked about here? And it's missing flight Malaysia. Malaysia. Malaysia really is Malaysia. So what's going on is that the 370 represents, like I said, fortune coming together with secrets, coming together with some type of a point of origin. So what's happening is that it's saying that somebody put up some money. This is what it's telling me, and this is from a channeler's point of view now, because I understand numbers and how what they're saying. Somebody put up some money, because 3 is represented by Jupiter. So that means that someone was looking to further Someone was looking for good luck. Someone was looking to expand. Someone was looking for something good out of this. Then you have the 7, which is ruled by Neptune, which means it's of a secret nature. Everything that's happening with this event is very, very much a secret. Then you have the 0, which represents the point of origin, which means that that flight was going somewhere. And wherever it was going, 0 represents the beginning, how things start, the womb. So wherever this thing was going, it was going somewhere where time began, where things originate. So it's letting you know right now, this is already something, a stage being set that's looking like this plane, they're making it look like this plane flew into some form of a vortex, the Bermuda Triangle type of situation, some form of a energy grid that on that particular part of the planet, wherever this plane went, they don't obviously have intel there, or they don't have, their cameras won't allow them to see into this particular place, and there are parts of the planet like this. So what they're really letting you know is that the earth is changing, things are shifting, and people can go missing. People can fall off the grid and disappear now. This couldn't happen actually 20 years ago or even 10 years. They had better surveillance then. They're letting you know that people that are mystical, especially in that area, you're dealing with male Asians, Asiatics. See, Asiatics go into the original. At one time, this planet was called Asia. Asia is a very old name. I always tell people Asia, and I love Africa. Shout out to my African brothers and sisters from Nigeria. But we'll see, when I talk about Africa, I deal with the actual country, you see. I deal with the actual country. And I know for sure that Africa, one time, you could call it Nubia, and it's much older. If I say Nubia, shout out to my Nubians. That's a much older term, actually. And will help you to identify more with the actual landmass than Africa. Africa is just the name of a man, but still, shout out to my Africans out there, my Nigerians to be specific, my Ghanaians, all of my Africans from Mali, Ethiopia, from Kush, from the Sudan, all over Africa, South Africa, which is the only true African landmass, which is South Africa right now. So shout out to all of them. But getting back to my point, this plane went missing. And when you're dealing with Asia, you're dealing with a very old name. They chose that name for a reason, Male Asia. So Asia is a very old name. We were called Asiatics at one time. There was an Asia Major and an Asia Minor, as the Moorish sisters taught us, the Moabitises. There was an Asia Major and there was an Asia Minor. So they only tell you about Asia Minor. They don't really talk too much about Asia Major. So when you say Male Asia, you're dealing with the term male going into Mars. Mars went retrograde right before that flight went missing. So when you talk about male, you're talking about like male-ific. Mars, men are ruled by Mars. Male means disagreeable or rebellious. That's what male literally means. When you say I'm a male, you say I'm disagreeable. You say I'm a female. I'm a feminine disagreeable. So, I mean, female and male is, synonymous, and means the same. So when you say male Asia, you're talking about disagreeable Asians. This is what they're saying. Asians that don't necessarily agree with the world stage the way it's set up right now. What they're really saying is that it's people going missing. Because right now on the surface of the planet, the Asians have been given the covenant by the ETs. And they're calling in debts. They're calling in monies. So this is why you see the Jupiter thing. And a lot of people are going crazy on the planet, can't deal with it. So they're calling, so this is the U.S. media keeping up the story, you keep in mind, mainly. And they're calling them male Asians. Meaning that they're calling them disagreeable. They're looking at the Asians as being disagreeable. To the point where there's a lot of people from the U.S. that don't like the Asians, the Asiatics. There's a lot of Asians that don't like themselves. There's a lot of Asiatics that don't like the Asians. Because the Asians are taking over, just like it was prophesied that was going to happen. The Asiatics will get back in power. Why? Because the Asiatics were in power before. So now the Asiatics are getting back in power. So they're calling people that accept the new energy Asians. This is what they're calling us. And you might look at this like, man, you're right and all. You're just saying all like, no, this is serious. Things are shifting. And they're a corporation. That's what you got to realize. They're a corporation because these are the news outlets that created the story. So these are corporations creating news, talking about what's really going on with nationals. So that's what this is really about, and how a lot of nationals are falling off the grid, and they're leaving the matrix, and they don't like that. So that's what that's what this story is about. Now it's a group of nationals that are missing, that are making ties, and I knew about this months ago, that are making ties with beings in the center of the earth. They're making pacts, and these beings in the center of the earth are showing them stuff that's going to happen 10, 20 years from now, giving them information in advance, and then sending them back onto the surface to act as agents on the surface and to implement the agenda of the council, which is located in the center of the earth. And that's what this has a lot to do with. That's what this has a lot. So when you talk about 370, the 0 representing the point of origin, which is in the center of the earth. That's what that goes into. So this is deep, and they're calling them male Asians because they're calling them disagreeable Asiatics, because primarily Asia has the contact with the beings that are ruling in the center of the earth. They've been given, they're the go-to or the go-between. See, in World War II, the U.S. wanted to stop Germany for the same reason. And Hitler, because he was in contact with extraterrestrials. Whether you say he was wrong, he shouldn't have did what he did, and people hate him, the Jews hate him, and all of that. I don't teach hate. This is the intellectual channel. Reason with me, philosophize with me. And I'm just saying that he was in contact with extraterrestrials and was given technology that the nations didn't have at that time. And they was like, we got to shut this shit down. That's what that was about, and that's what's going on right now. So you got the Asians, and even when you deal with what's going on in Russia, this ties in with it, because Russia are true Caucasians. See, they're the true Caucasians. A lot of white people might not want to hear this and different things like that, but there's different species of white people. I'll have to do a whole video on white people and so-called black people and the whole black and white thing. Or you never know, I might just put it into one of my books that I'm writing. I'm going to put a lot more I'm working on some books, and I'm going to put more controversial information. When I say I'm going to make a video about this, or oh, that may be too controversial, I'll put it in a book. Because then you reading it, and I can put more research in it, and it's not like a video where you're going to judge me as soon as I say something and press pause and go out and tell her, oh, Ram Hotep said that. I'll have time, to be able to back up with my points. But just know this for right now, that Russians are Caucasians. That's the true Caucasian. So they're talking about Russia, China, and all of these nations that they're having a problem with. When I say this is the unions and the corporations, whether it's people from Europe, there's unions going on all over, and the unions want to suppress the nationals because the feminine energy means that the world has to go back on a national standard. Things have to be nationalized. So they're having a problem with that. The corporations, the corporate fiction is. So this is what this flight is talking about, and you would think that it had nothing to do, you wouldn't think that this flight thing has anything to do with nationality or economics or anything like that. You think, man, it's just a missing flight and they're gone. Damn, Ram Hotep, you done took us to a whole nother level. That's how deep it be. That's how deep, I should say, when they cover what they're covering up is usually something so deep that they got to create this big smoke screen. It's just like I say, ooh, look at that airplane. And then you look at that airplane, and on this side, I done took all your shit while you looking over here. I done hijacked you and took everything. And then you look back over, and you like, damn, where my car keys go? I done took everything from you. That's what they're doing. Ooh, did you see that airplane? Ooh, look at the little birdie. And you look at, jack your shit. That's how it goes. Wag the dog. They've been showing this stuff. I mean, but the wag the dog, the thing is that they were showing you back then what's going to happen now. See, wag the dog, don't get me wrong. They've been doing this for a while, and they've been having crisis stories and smoke screen stories. I realized 9/11 was, I could do a whole video on 9/11. I can say what that really was about. A lot of people that they did all of this conspiracy videos on 9/11. Nobody really still hasn't really talked about the real live what 9/11 was really truly about. It had a lot to do with what they said, but it was a lot more to that. So yeah, I know 9/11 and the Oklahoma bombings that happened, the Boston bombing, that thing was totally more to it than that. And I'm not saying people don't get hurt. Like the real story that's being projected, I'm not saying people don't get hurt, because they do. Like in the real, like the crisis story may talk about people were hurt, like the plane was hijacked, so many people got killed, blah 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 blah. They may be talking about the people that got killed, casualties. It may be the casualties that link to the real story that they're reporting, and what they do is they create a fairy tale version of the real story. This is what I'm showing you, a distorted version of the truth. Why? There's many reasons why. Why? And one reason is because they're a corporation, and they are legally responsible for certain names they can't say. People have to be having their names copyrighted and different stuff like that. So they understand law. So they just create a whole crisis story because it covers their ass when it comes to legally these days, because they know people look for lawsuits. So they like, we're going to come up with a crisis story. We ain't finna let these nationals sue us. So that's what it's talking about. Is really leading up to full disclosure. This group has made contact with beings at the center of the earth. You need to watch. I was saying this. They saying it on the news now. Lost is playing out. Like, this is how you know that this shit is not real, because think about it, people. Lost came out back in 2008, probably before then. I got hip to it late. So it was probably back in 06, 05. They was talking about Lost back in 2005. And those people that watch Lost, which is a TV series, I want to do a whole video on it, know that the theme of it is based on this missing flight. That nobody knows where their family's at, and they're missing, and the family end up in another dimension somewhere. See, people's families, the family members end up somewhere in another dimension flying around. So that's what's really playing out right now is Lost. You can watch Lost and it'll tell you exactly everything that's playing out right now in the world. And the island just so happen to be close to Australia. It's no coincidences in this. The island that they think that these people are at is supposed to be close to Australia. What they're not telling people is that when they get into those islands, they can get lost, literally. The Bermuda Triangle and things like that are real. They don't have... See, there is a fourth dimension that's overlapping this planet. And as we get deeper into it, many people are going to become lost. And they're going to lose their family members, lose track of where people are at. And then next thing you know, you're going to see them, because we're entering into a mirage. We're entering into a landscape that the shapes change and things shift. This is what we're entering into. So it's more important now to understand spirituality and metaphysics, because you might get lost into a place, in a spot, you don't know nothing, you don't know nothing about these beings, and they playing out a reality, but you could have been watching these videos and be like, oh, they playing out something similar to what Ram Hotep said about Andromeda. See, these crazy videos one day are going to be lifesavers, because as these beings come back into the planet, begin to set up their culture and populate this planet, and begin to cloak, and the first thing they're going to do is veil themselves from the surface of the planet. So they're going to take a portion of the planet and make it disappear. They have the power to do this scientifically, and scientists know they do. They're going to take a portion of the planet, make it disappear, and set up their own reality in that portion, and people are going to get lost in there, and it may remind you of Andromeda. It may remind you of Sirius. It may remind you of Pleiades, and the things that were said about these particular star constellations and how groups live there. They're going to begin to set up colonies here on this planet, because more beings are coming here. And they warned the government to do full disclosure. So I'm going to make one more point, because I know I've been talking and talking, and I'm going to shut the video down. My last point is that this was to totally block aliens making themselves known. See, in Russia, some aliens make themselves known. And there's two sides to this story. One group is saying that the aliens that made themselves known were representing the United States, whereas another group said that, or I should say the European Union, the United States, and the whole corporation side of things. And then another story I read online, because I got an email from one person that said it was representing the United States. I didn't see that story, so I don't know. But then I read a real live news story online where they said that when the stuff first broke out in Ukraine, when Russia showed up and put down their flags and claimed that this is their land as nationals, which they have the right to do, from my opinion. They have every right to claim their land as nationals. And we in the U.S., the only reason why the U.S. doesn't want that to happen is because they don't want to give the Americans or the Native Americans any power and put them in government, because they know in order for us to become a nationalized government in America, we'd have to give Mexico land, because Texas and certain tracts of land that we claim as United States is really Texas or Mexico. It's really, I'm sorry, Mexico. It's really Mexico's land. So they don't want to give people back their land and let people at least tie into the mandate and break people off. They don't. The U.S. doesn't want to do that. They're not financially ready for that, but they're going to have to be in a minute. But that's everything structuring and changing. So they said, back to my point, when Russia was putting down their flags to claim their land, they said that these aliens came in, and basically with these aliens came in, it was happy, like it was hovering over Russia, like protecting them as they were coming and putting down their flags for their land, and like hovering over the Russians, like basically saying to the Polish or whoever was in there trying to block it, look, if you guys try to attack them, stop them from X, Y, and Z, like the aliens are gonna swoop down and come down, because over there in Russia, they aliens, the ships making themselves known. See, in the U.S., you don't see as many of them in certain areas. You see them over there on the western part of the U.S., which is a reason for that. But you don't see them on the 13 colonies aspect of the U.S. on the East Coast as much, because they'll shoot them down. The military will shoot them down. Just for one thing, for fear, and then for two, they don't want their sheep knowing about this too early. But it's getting out of hand. It's a problem that, full disclosure, is coming. It's really here. And it got to the point, they said it was like so many sightings that they said the Denier showed up. Now, anybody that knows who the Denier is, shout out to all my Nuapians that know who the Denier is, my Nubians out there, my fellow Moors. Anybody that knows who the Denier is know that this is the higher elders that showed up when this thing went down in Russia. So this is something that the ETs they got their attention. So the ETs is looking, like when you see the cigar-shaped crafts, that's called a Denier. The cigar-shaped crafts, not the disc-shaped crafts, the cigar-shaped crafts. And the cigar-shaped crafts, this is where the elders and those particular beings on the council ride on the cigar-shaped crafts. This is how they identify themselves. I've seen them before. And they showed up in multitudes over in Russia, and they suppressed the story even on the internet. The story broke, and they suppressed it. But I had the article. I didn't save it, but I can go probably get back to it. It's probably not there. I'm sure you could probably Google it, and it'll come up. But they had the crafts over in Russia. Believe that. And this was before the story broke about this missing flight. So what I'm saying here is that the story about the missing flight was they had to come up with a smoke screen quick, because everybody kept looking at Russia, and all them news media outlets kept looking and looking. Next thing you know, the U.S. was going to end up seeing one of those crafts, and they were going to put it on the news. And boom, there you go, full disclosure, right there on the news. They can't have that. So they got to get people looking over to Malaysia, when the story about Malaysia is really talking about some stuff that's really going on over here and all over the planet all at once. But they got you looking over there, because they don't want you to see that we're connecting with aliens right now. This is what I'm basically saying. And they know that the reason why they're so scared is because economics is going to change on this planet drastically. But the thing is that they're not even going to be able to hide it anymore, because the weather's all jacked up. Sooner or later, they're going to start losing more land to aliens, and land is going to start breaking off and disappearing. And they're not reporting this stuff. It's land breaking off right now as we speak, falling into the water. Live in California, in different places, got sinkholes in different places, and then you got land and water and land rising. So it's time to wake up, people. These are crisis actors. That's all I can tell you. And people are going to be like, well, how can I know like what's real and what's not? You got to really pay attention and really have time to do a lot of research. And you have to be very unbiased and look at things from many different perspectives if you want to make it through this thing. Because it's deep. I mean, if you want to understand like the news, and just don't watch the news and be lost. Most people don't watch the news because they don't understand it. The news is deep. I mean, I could watch cartoons and get deep information out of cartoons. Cartoons are deep. Somebody asked me about anime. I need to do videos on anime. I got so much to do, so much time. I finally got some things going, popping off, so I'm going to be able to make a lot more videos soon. I know you guys noticed it's been slow, and it's because 13 Signs of Astrology is in high demand. I thank all the fans for that. We're in high demand right now because nobody's really telling the truth. People are lost out here, and it's getting to the point now. That's why Lost is playing out. People are becoming lost. They're getting amnesia. They're forgetting everything. So we need people to recall, and people say, well, everything you said resonated with me. I knew that. And I know that's the whole point of this information, is to get it to come back up into your conscious memory so you can do something about it. So it's going to resonate. It's going to help you to remember. It's all information you heard before. I'm not saying anything new. But the thing is that this is a new beginning, and if somebody's not talking about this information, we're going to forget. We're going to get amnesia. So a good shaman causes his or her fellow students or fellow listeners to remember. So I'll go ahead and shut this video down. Um, Everything's not what it seems in this matrix. Everything is a play. Everything is a stage. And you got to study astrology, numerology, things of that nature to really understand what's going on. This thing with this missing flight happened 2 days before we went into Pisces and 13 signs of astrology. See, they researching this stuff. They know. The authors know about 13 signs of astrology. Trust me. It went from Aquarius, which represents the air, into the water, which is Pisces. Aquarius is the air sign into the water, and that's what the flight literally did. It was in the air. Some people say it crashed into the water, but what really happened was that it went to a portal, which really, it didn't go into a portal, but this is the real live meaning behind the play. See, the event didn't happen. Don't get it twisted, but I'm saying the meaning behind the play, because I want to make that known so people don't think I'm saying two things at once. The meaning behind the play is that the flight was supposed to have got missing into a portal, and that they don't know where it's at, because this is similar to the Bermuda Triangle, and this is a real life situation where they do have situations like this that are playing out, where people are getting missing and they don't know where they're at. That's the point of it. And why they don't know where they're at? Because aliens are cloaking them, protecting them, and changing this planet. So that's my recap on it. Hope you guys learned something from this particular episode. Look out for my next video. And until we meet again, I'll leave you in Hotep. Peace. Wadu.